Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. So I'd like to invite everyone to think about a religious experience that they've had in their life, a religious experience that you've had that was somehow particularly alive and meaningful to you. It could have happened in this building or somewhere else. Maybe to think about what is it that made it alive for you? What about that religious experience made it feel different than maybe others, and something that you're still holding on to and thinking about? What was the combination of factors? A few examples in my own mind. I think about when a group of us from the synagogue went to Israel, I think it was 2017, and at the very end of the trip, we were at the Western Wall, the Kotel. We had this lovely Friday night experience at the Kotel, just our group singing and dancing. And so if you think about that experience, well, it was obviously we were at the Kotel, which is a special place for us. We're also a group of people. We were at the end of a trip that was very meaningful. And maybe people's hearts were open from being in Israel, and we're all seeking Jewish neshamas, Jewish souls at that moment. But also you could think about something that isn't so obvious, but something closer. It's been on my mind. And that service we had here just last week, right, for the adult celebrating the bar and bat mitzvah. And a lot of people have been commenting on that. There was such an alive service. And why was it so alive? What was so special about it? Maybe it was because of the heartfelt words that were spoken by Octavio and Lisa and Peter and Brian. And when they sang and they chanted, you could see how much they cared for our tradition and for our faith. And maybe it reminded all of us where we are in our journeys and about our own journeys through faith and religion and our connection to Judaism and our identity. And part of it is being adults. As adults, we don't have to be here. We choose to be here in this room. We choose to be here. And that, when we think about that, sometimes that just something clicks and opens our hearts. We're here for that reason of seeking all of that out. We chose to be here. And suddenly it all comes together. And so that experience to think about, that experience, the religious experience, asking you to think about in your mind one that was particularly alive. So what was it that made it alive? Was it the singing? Was it a warm feeling somehow? What was it, something it reminded you of? Because one experience like that that feels very alive is worth many, many, many more that's not so alive, because it sticks in our hearts and minds. And it's not about the details. I don't remember exactly that much of what we were singing at the Western Wall that night. I have a few images in my mind, but it wasn't even about the images. And no offense to the four of you who were here last week. Only one of you here is still here today, but I don't know if I'm going to remember particular words that you said. I'm not going to remember the sentences that you talked about. But I remember there's a feeling and quality that came through. There was a special quality. And the morning just felt very joyous and alive. And this is the nature of religious experience. It's not about the details, but it's about an event that is life transforming, and that somehow in a smaller way or in a bigger way resets our inner clocks and gently takes us home to that place where we remember, okay, this is what we're doing here, and reminds us of our connections in our lives and makes us feel as we'd like to feel, ready to walk ahead, heart, mind, body, and soul overflowing. And we were realigned. And so such modest experiences that we've all had give us a little bit of a window to try to understand the immensity of the experience that we read about this morning in the Torah. The most alive of experiences. And yes, the ground shook and the mountain opened up and the shofar blared. But more than all of that, it was the feeling of the experience itself that the Torah is trying to convey, of what it must have been like to be there. And as we have from our oral tradition, it was an experience of tremendous love. That's what was felt, joy and love. And that the clouds were like the chuppah and the Torah was like the ketubah. It was a moment of love. And the whole run-up, Moses going up the mountain and being the messenger, conveying God's words down to the people. Will you be my treasured people, a holy people, a nation of priests? And the people, not knowing what they're getting into, but with some trepidation and awe, and we imagine some hopefulness too, say, yes, we'll do this. And then came all the preparations that they were told to do and the special intensity. And there was that physical shaking and the clouds and the fire and the sounds. I wonder, was it all physically there in front of them? Was it in their minds? What was it exactly like? And then we have this tradition of God's voice speaking to them in that immense experience. I am the Lord your God, who took you out of Egypt. You shall have no other God but me. And according to the Midrash, they didn't even hear anything past I. When they heard I, or the Aleph of Anochi, the very first letter, suddenly that was too much. The rest was, already they were gone at that moment, transported to another place. And the Midrash, again, trying to convey that their souls just taken out of their bodies, and that their bodies, maybe again this to convey to us the immensity of it, were thrown back 1 mile. Something totally other. And so the Torah records the 10 Commandments. We were reading them today, still written on our scroll and the way they have been for thousands of years. But they only got the first letter. And at the end of it, their souls came back to their bodies. They said to Moses, don't let God speak to us again. Next time, God can speak to you and you can speak to us. But this is too much. And so whatever they heard that day, to our tradition, it was never just about the message, but it was also about the experience, which is why we read that run-up to the message. Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Berdichev says there were 2 Torahs that were shared at Mount Sinai. There was the actual Torah that was given with all of its instructions of how to live and be, and then there was the experience of being there, the shaking, the joy, the light that we still try and connect to. Because there was something that was transmitted that day, just like we can all have in our minds from our own religious experiences that we've had in our lives and maybe spoken to about a few chosen people, and that touched the essence of the beings of those who were there. And that was part of what was supposed to be handed down from generation to generation, and to try and talk about it, just as we try and remember the experiences in our lives, of birth, sometimes the passing away that marked us. And it's true, all we have really is the description in this book. It was so long ago, we don't have first-hand accounts of what it was like. And yet, all of Judaism comes out of that experience. All of Judaism comes out of that. And we have this teaching that every one of us was at Sinai, meaning every one of us has a little bit of a link, an image, individually and communally, collectively, to what happened. And now we've tried to keep it alive. It's a little bit like playing, what's that game, telephone, but from Jewish soul to Jewish soul, from heart to heart, from synagogue to synagogue, over millennia. And not just the words. And the words are important, but there's also a place where we could even say, there's a place that those words are empty words, since they didn't even hear them. That they were empty words, not meaning they weren't meaningful, but there's even, you talk to scholars, and those words were not completely unique. Other cultures had almost exactly all the laws that we have. Even monotheism, the Egyptians tried it, and other places were developing it, were beginning to develop it. But the experience behind it, that was precious, that was unique, timeless. And so the Shabbat is a Shabbat where we try and recall that experience and try to bring to light a little bit of how it still speaks to every Jewish heart and soul. And also a time when we think about how we can bring a bit more of those experiences into our lives, more as alive experiences more often. Rededicate ourselves to bring a bit more awareness, a bit more kavanah, a bit more intention every time we pray. To be a little bit more open of heart with the people we love. And to feel that profound shaking that's at the heart of all religious experiences and journeys. And try our best to hand it over to the people we love and care about in our world. Shabbat Shalom.